But it still took a lot to like really understand like the selling motion. And that's one part that I thought I would hate, but I've like really fallen in love with like being part of like a pre-sales team.
That's awesome. So can you kind of talk about what it's like? What was it like working at Salesforce? How did you adapt to the culture at Salesforce? And then how did you excel in the role? I know something at Salesforce, it's about the Ohana. I think Mark Benioff was the founder, correct? So a huge kind of influential tech figure in the Bay Area and now worldwide. So what was it like working at Salesforce? How did you excel there?
Yeah, I loved it. And also on that Ohana note, I don't know if I told you, Angela, but I actually went to Hawaii, like with
Oh,
Salesforce. Yeah.
no way. Tell me about that.
I made President's Club, like basically their version of President's Club
Yeah.
in 2021.
You're so winner. You're giving me goosebumps. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was like my biggest accomplishment at Salesforce. And yeah, I went in 2022. It was for my performance in 2021. And it was, thank you. It was so cool. Like I got to bring Richie, my boyfriend, fully expense, like 3 or 4 day trip. Katy Perry came and performed just for us, like live performance. Yeah, it was amazing. There's like gifts on like when you went back to your hotel like every single night.
Oh
Like,
my gosh.
super, super cool
Yeah.
experience.
Where'd you guys stay in Hawaii?
I think it was in Big Island. Can't remember what the resort was called, but it was like a super, super nice resort.
Wow, congrats.
Yeah,
You
thank
deserve
you.
it.
Thank you. Yeah, that was super cool. And usually it's like 90% salespeople. So like as a
Mhm.
pre-sales engineer going,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it was such an honor.
They all have a good time,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. But your question was around sorry, I just
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Can you repeat that
Of
question?
course, yeah. How did you excel at Salesforce? And it's kind of even more evident now that you were in the President's Club. Like, what did you do to make sure you had great performance reviews, you were highly regarded amongst your peers, and all anything of that nature? What did you do to make sure you excelled at that role?
Yeah. So one thing I loved about the Salesforce culture was that like when I started in end of 2019, so I basically started right before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like there was such a culture, even remotely, to give feedback. And like
Oh, wow.
it was a safe space to basically like solicit feedback, apply the feedback in real time and get a lot of like at bats to become like a really high performer. So I started in the SMB, so like small, medium business space as a
Mhm.
solution engineer. So what that means is like I was aligned to like 8 to 10 like account executives, and each of them had like 30 accounts. So if you do the math, that's a lot of accounts to like
That's a ton,
talk
yeah.
to. So my days were like I don't know, I would have like 20 calls on my calendar a week,
That's
probably
a lot.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah, and these are like customer calls, not counting like internal syncs and everything.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my
Um,
gosh, yeah.
yeah, it's definitely a lot. And it's talking to like it's super cool. It was a super cool job though. It was like talking to the coolest startups,
Uh-huh.
mom and pop shops, and just like learning how their business runs, especially during COVID when things are changing a ton. And a lot of customers had to pivot, right? Like a lot of them would be doing something. Like I had one customer in particular that like they were selling like adult toys and like lubricants that they had to pivot to like producing like hand sanitizer. So it was such a
Wow.
cool and interesting time to actually be a part of like selling Salesforce to them and painting the vision. But that's part of how I succeeded, right?